All of you. How are you doing? I'd be happy. All right. I'm doing great because I've got this gigantic chunk of scripture I get to teach. John chapter 11, 1 through 44. I have 35 minutes allotted for 44 verses, less than a minute per verse. So you're going to have to turn on your listening ears, and I'm going to try to talk slowly. And I'm going to do something this morning that generally hasn't been done, just because, I don't know why. Let's see here. I'm going to read to you this passage, because why would I want to talk about something that you haven't even read and you don't know what it says, right? So it's kind of a new thing, and it's probably the last time it's going to happen until I'm up here next time. So just enjoy yourself, get some coffee if you need to, take a nap if you need to, whatever needs to happen while I read to you this story of probably one of Jesus' greatest miracles, the raising of Lazarus from the dead, which is awesome. So here we go. Chapter 11, verse 1. A man named Lazarus was sick. He lived in Bethany with his sisters, Mary and Martha. This is the Mary who later poured the expensive perfume on the Lord's feet and wiped them with her hair. Her brother Lazarus was sick, so the two sisters sent a message to Jesus telling him, "Lord, your dear friend is sick." Right, they're hoping for something to happen. Verse 4, but when Jesus heard about it, he said, "Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. No, it happened for the glory of God, so that the Son of God will receive glory from this." So although Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, he stayed where he was for the next 2 days. Finally, he said to his disciples, "Let's go back to Judea." But his disciples objected. And by the way, I'll say more about this later, but you can't say no, Lord. They don't go together. "Rabbi," they said, "only a few days ago the people in Judea were trying to stone you. Are you going there again?" Jesus replied, "There are 12 hours of daylight every day. During the day, people can walk safely. They can see because they have the light of this world. But at night, there is danger of stumbling because they have no light." Then he said, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but now I will go and wake him up." Verse 12, the disciples said, "Lord, if he's sleeping, he'll soon get better." They thought Jesus meant Lazarus was simply sleeping, but Jesus meant Lazarus had died. So he told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead. And for your sakes, I'm glad I wasn't there, for now you will really believe. Come, let's go see him." Thomas, nicknamed the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let's go too and die with Jesus." Verse 17, when Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in his grave for 4 days. That'll be important here in a minute. Bethany was only a few miles down the road from Jerusalem, and many of the people had come to console Martha and Mary in their loss. When Martha got word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had only been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask." Jesus told her, "Your brother will rise again." "Yes," Martha said, "he will rise when everyone else rises at the last day." Jesus told her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. Everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never, ever die. Do you believe this, Martha?" Oh, so close. "Yes, Lord," she told him. "I have always believed that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who is to come into the world from God." Then she returned to Mary. She called Mary aside from the mourners and told her, "The teacher is here and wants to see you." So Mary immediately went to him. Jesus had stayed outside the village at the place where Martha met him. When the people who were at the house consoling Mary saw her leave so hastily, they assumed she was going to Lazarus' grave to weep, so they followed her there. When Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she fell flat at his feet and said, "Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping and saw the other people wailing with her, a deep anger welled up within him. We'll get back to that too. And he was deeply troubled. "Where have you put him?" he asked them. They told him, "Lord, come and see." Then Jesus wept. The people who were standing nearby said, "See how much he loved him?" But some said, "This man healed a blind man. Couldn't he have kept Lazarus from dying?" Jesus was still angry as he arrived at the tomb, a cave with a stone rolled across its entrance. "Roll the stone aside," Jesus told them. But Martha, the dead man's sister, protested, "Lord, he has been dead for 4 days. The smell will be terrible." Jesus responded, "Didn't I tell you that you would see God's glory if you believe?" Wow. So they rolled the stone aside. Then Jesus looked up to heaven and said, "Father, thank you for hearing me. You always hear me, but I said it out loud for the sake of all these people standing here so that they will believe you sent me." Then Jesus shouted, "Lazarus, come out." And the dead man came out, his hands and feet bound in grave cloths, his face wrapped in a headcloth. Jesus told him, "Unwrap him and let him go." Wow. incredible stuff here. So I was looked at this passage and I thought, how is this relevant today? What can we learn from this? And what I realized was the way people reacted to this miracle as it was happening and as it was coming kind of showed that none of them really got the point. They were kind of going off on their own devices. It's kind of like, and I thought of the analogy of driving. Jesus is driving the miracle bus, okay? He's driving down to see Lazarus and to raise him from the dead. And you know, if you have a crazy driver in your family, don't you want to take the wheel from him? You ever thought of that? Every couple has a crazy driver and a grandpa driver. And I'm the grandpa driver, and I'll say no more about my family situation. So all the people that were involved in this miracle, to one degree or another, wanted to take control of it, and they wanted to make it their way. And we'll start off with the apostles. The apostles miss the point. They hear that Jesus is going down to Bethany, and they think, you're crazy. You're going to get stoned because they were trying to kill you earlier. And Jesus has already told them, Lazarus is asleep, I'm going to awaken him from death. He's already made that clear. They don't seem to have even noticed that he said that, do they? It's like they didn't even understand that was going to be a thing. All they could think about was going down there and getting stoned to death. They did not realize that Jesus knows God's will. No human adversary can stop him. Now think with me for just a minute. Didn't Jesus say to Mary, to his mother early in John, my time has not yet come? Do you remember that? He said it several times in his ministry, didn't he? This is not my time yet. What time is he talking about? Yeah, absolutely, his death and his resurrection, right. That's been laid out in prophecy, 300 prophecies, and he's going to ride into Jerusalem on the donkey, and everything's going to go the way God said it's going to go. Therefore, there's no way they can get hurt by getting stoned because they're smack in the middle of God's will. Jesus knows God's will. Nobody can stop him until his hour has come. So they were perfectly safe, and if they had realized that, maybe they could have said to themselves, selves, what is he going to do when he raises somebody from the dead? Is that possible? So the big idea for this morning is going to be let Jesus drive. You know, I know there's that silly song about Jesus take the wheel, right? I don't ever even heard that song, but it sounds ridiculous. But anyway, let Jesus drive. If he's taking you in a new direction, trust him for the details. Let me just take a second, and I don't want to just transmit facts this morning. I want to think into this a little bit. Jesus is sometimes going to tell you he wants you to go somewhere with him, isn't he? Some of you have had that experience, right? You've heard from the Lord, and he wants you to do a certain thing. You're reading his word, and you realize there's a change that needs to be made. You've got to go somewhere with Jesus. He's inviting you to come, and it's so important that we trust him when he does that, that we let him take the wheel and make it the way it needs to be. And if you have something in your life right now, and in a group like this, there's always going to be several who are confronted with something that Jesus wants you to do. I want you to think carefully about this and be courageous and brave and go with him, even if it looks like you're going to get stoned. So that's the big idea for the apostles. And we're going to leave the apostles there. That's all they get. They were kind of dumb, so I'm just going to leave them. Martha now is up next. Martha misses the point also. Now Martha, if you know from Luke chapter 10, Martha is a busy, confident, assertive woman. She gets stuff done, and she got a big meal prepared in Luke chapter 10, and Mary was sitting at Jesus' feet, and Martha said, would you tell her to help me? And Jesus said, Mary picked the best thing. But you know, somebody's got to make the meal, right? We don't want to dog on Martha too much. She was a doer, not a talker. And so they're very different sisters. But Martha misses the point because she almost blames Jesus for Lazarus' death. Let's take a minute on this too. She says, Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. Now, what is she assuming? Let's use our brains for a second.
That he's not coming back to life. He is dead.
They're assuming that he's dead, and it was because of what? Because Jesus didn't come. She sent messages. She said, come, my brother who you love dearly is sick. And he waited 2 days, didn't he? He did. He waited 2 days to set up the miracle. There was a Jewish superstition in that day that if somebody died, they had 3 days to possibly resurrect themselves, like come back alive, wake up, come out of a coma. They gave them 3 days, but their superstition said after 3 days, it's over. The spirit leaves the body for good. And she might have known this and might have believed it and thought, why did you wait? We could have had a 3-day situation here or a 2-day situation when his spirit was still there, but you delayed in coming, and now he's dead. And you can feel the depth of pain that she has here, wondering why he would betray her. But her conversation with Jesus is very significant. She's going to have this little back and forth, and I want you to enjoy this almost. She also seems to think Jesus had to be present to heal, right? Is that true? No, of course not. He can zap someone across the continent. Yeah, he can save anywhere and anyhow. He even healed somebody who touched the hem of his garment, you know? So no, she was thinking kind of small, but she almost brought herself to believe the immensity of what was going to happen. She alone of the people in this story almost stepped into bigness, went big. Because she said, even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask. Whatever you ask. What's she talking about? You have to work with me here. I'm not Pastor Chris. I can't jump around. I can't jump around like Brother Barry, you know, do all those cool things. If I do those things, I'm going to fall off the stage, and I'll have stage 12 Parkinson's disease to thank for that. So, yeah. So what is she saying when she says, even now God will give you whatever you ask? What's that? She wishes. She hopes he'll bring him back. She thinks he can. And she steps out in faith, makes a big statement. Right now, you could even bring him back from death, even now. Despite the 4 days and despite the stench and despite everything, you could do this. And Jesus gives her a chance to think big. He replies, your brother will rise again. Like right now? Could she have said that to Jesus? Could she have said, do you mean right now? Is that a thing? Oh, things could have gone so differently. It would have been astounding faith. And by the way, I'm not knocking these participants in this story because we'd all do the same thing. None of us have a super duper faith, I don't think. And they didn't either. But she almost made it. She cannot bring herself, however, to believe that Lazarus might live again because he says, your brother will rise again. And yes, Martha said, he will rise when everyone else rises at the last day. Well, of course. That's orthodoxy. She states an orthodox opinion. But it's not a miracle opinion, right? She's saying, it's over. He'll get his resurrection with the rest of us. But Jesus gives her another chance to think big. I am the resurrection and the life, he says. Anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. Everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never, ever die. Do you believe this, Martha? Do you believe what? That it can happen today. That's what he's saying. He's painting a picture for her and asking her to step into it and believe him for this insane miracle. But Martha has lost her nerve. She's backing down now from her confident question. Yes, Lord, she told him, I've always believed you are the Messiah. Well, is that what he asked? No, he asked, do you believe I can raise this guy from the dead? And she's like, yes, Lord, I do believe you're the Messiah and you're supposed to go. More orthodoxy on ice, you know. It's important to believe doxically. It's important, but it's not as important as believing God for the big thing. So she doesn't quite make it. And I want to just make a note here of something that Jesus often spoke in parables, didn't he? And he would say things and they wouldn't understand it because he made it almost deliberately, how do you put it, cloaked. You know, like he would say things and then he would say, I speak to them in parables so they won't believe. Because what he's saying is, you've got to lean into me. When I'm talking to you, you have to lean into me and explore and ask the big questions. Don't just take his seeming no for an answer. God changes his mind all over the Old Testament, doesn't he? He changed his mind when Abraham takes him to task and says, can you save the city for just 10 righteous people? And says, yeah, I'll do that. So many things that could be understood only with an effort. And so he's speaking to her in that way. He's saying, your brother will rise again. Come on, bring it. Tell me, ask me. Right now, is that what you're saying? And he says, I'm the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will never die. Do you believe that? Do you believe that, what I just said to you? And she says, well, yeah, I believe in my orthodox beliefs. And so that was the end for her. The big idea for her is let Jesus drive. Don't be afraid to lean into what he is saying to you. When God is communicating to you, my experience has been, even in the Word, sometimes I won't understand and I don't ask, right? If I don't understand what he's doing, I don't understand what he's saying, ask. And that's what I would encourage you to do. If you're at a place where you're wondering about his plans for you or his thoughts or anything like that, pray into it and see if you can explore and find out what the big thing would be in that circumstance. That's what I figured out anyway. I'm going to turn the page. Watch this. It's upside down. We come to Mary now, and Mary's a worshiper and a feeler, okay? And Mary's contribution to the story is that she suffers hopelessly. You notice she didn't come out to see Jesus, right? Very Mary-like. She's sitting in her house. The people in her house are comforting her by grieving. And the way they did it was called ululation. Here's a word you never heard before. I'm thinking most of you. It's worth your money right here. Ululation is when they would go, ah, la, 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 like this. They really making a big racket and a big sound. That's how they would grieve. And they would actually hire people to be professional grievers and make this racket. And Mary's sitting in the house and she's surrounded by this racket and she can't bear to see Jesus. You know why? Because she thinks he caused her Lazarus' death also. So Jesus sends for her and she comes and she falls at his feet, something Martha didn't do, right? She didn't do that. She weeps, something else the tough-minded Martha didn't do. She's deep in her feels. She almost blames Jesus for Lazarus' death, just like her sister. Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. You know they had that conversation, right? While they're waiting for Jesus to come. You know they talked about it. Why isn't he here? He could have lived. What is going on? They're just wrought with pain here. It's interesting because in English they said the same thing, right? But in Greek, it's a little different. The way Mary says it is she puts the word brother in an emphasis position. If you had only been here, would not have died, my brother. That's all she can think of is the loss of her brother. And I'm not criticizing any of these people because what would we do in the same situation? So Martha used words and Mary used tears, but neither one of them can envision where Jesus is taking this. She doesn't know. So she falls and she goes off this way, off stage, and she's done. The big idea for Mary is let Jesus drive. If you have to wait for Jesus to act, take heart. His timing is perfect. I found a really cool quote. It said, we generally interpret any delay in rendering help as cruel because of our desire to avoid pain. And if we want to avoid pain, we're going to be unhappy and miserable and bitter and sad. When pain comes into our life, when Parkinson's came into my life, it changed a lot of things, right? You guys know my story, most of you. But I would never ask for that to be taken away. Because I've gone places with the Lord I would never have gotten to without Parkinson's. And some of you are the same way. If you have to wait for Jesus to act, take heart. I'm guessing I probably will not see healing in this life. It's probably going to carry me to the grave, and then I'll be resurrected and everything will be great. But I wait for him to act, and I know that his timing is perfect. Whatever's come into your life is there for a reason, friends. And it's not because he doesn't love you. It's because he loves you. That's why he trains us and disciplines us. And you can go read Hebrews about that. God disciplines every son that he receives. So if you're one of those people this morning and you're hurting and you're in a trial situation, in a period of suffering, I know it may sound like religious and cringy, but embrace it and let it do its work. It's there for a reason. So Mary's off doing whatever. And I want to just comment real quickly here on the reality of pain. They're all wailing, and like I told you in verse 33 and verse 30, they're wailing, which is translated weeping in the New Living Translation, which is what I'm using. They're doing their ululation. They're making a tremendous noise, which didn't help anybody probably. It would have been a chaotic and distressing scene, but faced with grief and the insufficiency of those present to understand, Jesus is faced with the grief and the insufficiency of those present to understand. He's looking at the sordidness of death. He knows Lazarus is stinking by now. He sees the pain ripped all across Martha and Mary. He sees the apostles going in circles, not even understanding what was going on. And it says Jesus felt anger. Now that your translation may say deeply moved. I picked this translation because I did a wonderful, fun, I had some coffee and some music was playing, and I dove into this word. This word is used in Mark 3, verse 5. He looked around at them with anger, grieved at their hardness of heart. Mark 14:5, he rebuked harshly. Mark 1:43, he issued a strong warning. Matthew 9:30, he warned sternly. It's a frustrated anger. It's not like a sinful anger. It's like, why? Why does this have to be this way? This is horrible. it's killing me to see what my beloved friends are going through and how ugly it all is. So he did feel, I believe, anger. That word means anger. And in verse 33, the second thing is Jesus was distressed. Now, some people are like coasting through life all the time. You ever know someone like that? It's like level, even keel, nothing bothers them, right? I'm going to say something about that in a minute. He was distressed. You think the Son of God would have the perspective that everything was going to work out in the end, so there's no reason to be upset, right? But he's still upset because he's a man, because he has a man's heart and he has a man's life. And he wept. And this word wept does not mean wail. It's a different word in Greek. It means ugly crying. Like I do. I do a bunch of that anymore. So he wept. And by the way, you can get some trivia points. You know, this is the shortest verse in the Bible. But in Greek, it has 3 words. So amaze your friends with that knowledge. If they ever say the shortest word is Jesus wept. Oh no, the Jesus wept. I know my Greek. And I'll say this, with his example in mind, if we never cry or rarely feel emotion, something needs looked at. I'm not saying this critically. I'm not saying, well, if you're not a Bali baby, you're a bad Christian. No. I'm saying that God created something and put them in our eyes. What are they? Tear ducts. Yeah, why did he put those in there? Well, that's interesting. Wonder why he has those there. It's because we're supposed to feel. Friends, here's the deal. Emotions are not to be our ironclad guide, right? We don't have to live by them, but we definitely have to respect them. And if I never let anything come into my heart, if I never ponder deeply the trial my friend is going through, if I never feel the breaking of a relationship, which Barbie and I did this summer, there's something wrong with me. Not wrong like I'm bad, wrong like I need to get to a place where I can feel. And I say that in all honesty. I spent my whole life until probably I deployed, and then a few years after that, I started crumbling. I spent my whole life being that guy who didn't have emotions. I never cried. I never cared. I just was flatline all the time. It's because my heart was not engaged. Once my heart got engaged and I started letting myself feel and going through the trials that God thoughtfully provided for me, then I started becoming a Bali baby. You know, Barbie used to be the one that cried all the time. And the weird thing is, she used to cry. If you said the word gerbil, she would cry. You know, I like that. If you said, Barbie, you look really nice today, you know, the tears would come. And I would think, oh, gosh, why is she doing this? But as time has gone on, she's cried less, and I've cried more. Like the crying angel hopped over on my side. And it's really funny because I used to feel pretty superior. You know, I was tough-minded. I was Martha. You know, I could do anything. I didn't have to be dragged down by these feelings. And now I am. You know, and Barb's just enjoying it richly, so it's terrible. So just think about that. That's something a therapist or life can teach you, but just think about it, because you think, men especially, you think if you cry, people are going to despise you. They'll see you as weak. I'm not weak. I mean, I am, but I'm a normal man, and I cry. It's because I'm not trying to be the tough guy anymore. So Jesus is now going to drive. He's going to carry us to the end of this little message. It's he says, let's go see Lazarus. And all the people there that were there, including Martha and Mary and his apostles, probably could be forgiven for asking why. Why do you want to go look at this? You're the one who caused it. I mean, kind of. They think. And Martha's ever practical. She's worried about the smell. She says, you roll that stone away, it's going to be horrible. I don't know about you guys. I've smelled a dead cat. I've smelled a dead human being. As part of my work with the sheriff's office one time or two times, a couple times. It's the worst thing. If you smelled it, you know what I'm saying. It's retchingly awful. So Martha is being practical. She says, give me that steering wheel. We don't want to smell that. That's the smell of failure. Smell of death. And Jesus says, did I not tell you if you believed you would see the glory of God? It's just, wow, that's just amazing. It's so awesome, you know. He's like, I told you guys, and you aren't picking it up. You've got to believe to see the glory of God. Roll the stone away. So they rolled that stone away. And Jesus says, Lazarus, come out. And he yelled it, Lazarus, come out. So he could hear it, right? Because he's in the tomb. And he comes wandering out with his, body wrapped up in a cloth and his head's wrapped up. It'd be funny if it wasn't so awesome. And Jesus had to say, unwrap him. They would have been like, oh my gosh. They would have been all stunned. It blew their minds. It had to. He just comes out and he doesn't even smell bad anymore. And they would have let him stay in those clothes forever while they talked about it. Jesus said, unwrap the guy. He's like a big piece of candy. You can enjoy him now. And John's point of his gospel, he says in chapter 21, is that people would believe, okay? And Jesus says specifically, and this miracle is for people to believe. And in chapter 12, starting at verse 9, you find out that many people believed in him because of this miracle. It was really cool. I also remember, though, what Jesus told Thomas, that same guy who said, let's go with Jesus and die with him, it's hopeless. Jesus told him, you have seen me and you believe. Blessed are those who do not see and still believe. It's an extra bonus. So the big idea is let Jesus drive. Get your hands off the steering wheel. Wherever he takes us, like the apostles, whatever he says to us, like Martha, however long we have to wait for him, like Mary, we're in good hands. And I'll just make a little point here. The band can come up. I'm already here. I beat you guys. Yep, that's right. I'm a winner. Yeah, and I would say there may also even be some people who have not yet put their faith in Jesus. And if you're that person, I'm not good at altar calls. I'm kind of I'm kind of awkward person. But if you want to talk to somebody, if you want to look into following Jesus Christ and you have not become a follower of his yet, please talk to our pastors or somebody, I don't know. Just find somebody. Find Tim. He'll do it. Let's go ahead and pray. Father, thank you for the chance to look at your word, and hallelujah, you're amazing. And thank you for raising Lazarus, Father. I don't know what he saw and how he felt having to die again, but I guess he was okay. So I pray that you would help us to let you drive, Father, to submit to you and to your goodness. Amen.